So last night I was browsing around on YouTube and I was looking at just some random videos of pretty much any type of genre you can imagine, except for beauty. I don't watch beauty videos. But I stumbled upon this video by Non-Stamp Collector who makes a lot of ironic and funny videos about Christian and creationist arguments against atheism, against why atheism is stupid and for their sides, and it's pretty funny. I think you guys should check them out. I wouldn't really consider it a lot of it offensive, even if you are religious, just because it's mainly about the people who speak out against people who don't believe in a God. And so if you believe in a God, it doesn't really talk about that too much. I mean, he might have some videos that do, but for the most part, it doesn't really play a part. But in this specific video, I actually don't even remember what the video was about. But typically after I watch a video related to atheism or science or Christianity or anything like that, I check out the comments. And for the most part, it was, the run-of-the-mill comments. Someone posts a funny comment about the video, like something that's said, or it's like ironic, the typical run-of-the-mill comments that you see, top comments, and then people respond to that and so on and so forth. Well, there was one person, a creationist, that caught my eye, and I actually got into a very, very mini debate with him in the comment section, just about like 3 or 4 comments, talking about what he was originally talking about in his comment. And basically, to sum it all up, this guy was talking about how science is unreliable. Science can't be trusted, and that we shouldn't trust scientists. We should automatically trust like the God hypothesis, is what he actually said. Well, actually, what he specifically said is he finds it comical that atheists find more reasoning and they trust more in science, in modern science, than in the God hypothesis, which of course is the case. I can speak for all atheists, every single atheist, that's definitely the case, and there's good reason for that. But I'm not really here to discuss too much about that. I'm just going to give you a generalization of what happened in the argument. Basically, he pointed out things in science that don't really make sense. I don't know if they're true or not. They're probably from biased articles. That's my guess, because typically that's what happens in these cases is these creationists go to a very biased website, like those religious websites that talk about how evolution is not true, even though it is a fact. And he probably got all of his data from there. That's my guess. I can't be sure about that. But he basically just was pointing out these things that are confusing, that don't make sense. He even brought up quantum gravity, and how things with quantum gravity don't make sense, about how, like, if you punch someone based on quantum gravity, they're attracted to you. And I don't know too much about quantum gravity, but I know that quantum mechanics are confusing, and they don't totally make sense. Like, it doesn't make sense how, if you are on a faraway planet in like a different part of the universe, an hour there could be 10 years on Earth. And it's just weird how you'd think time is a constant, but it's actually not. It's based on gravity. So there, time would be slowed down. I could live for thousands and thousands of years in Earth years when I'm only living for 80 years on this other planet. So yeah, it doesn't really make sense. I mean, it makes sense if you understand it. If you study, like if you are a quantum physicist, you understand quantum physics. Like I mean, some of it. We don't totally understand all that much. I don't know our total basis or our total understanding right now as to where we are in certain quantum mechanics and stuff like that. But that's basically what he was bringing up, was quantum gravity was his argument, and he was just talking about how that doesn't make sense, and therefore we shouldn't trust science. We shouldn't trust scientists. We shouldn't trust the quote-unquote experts. And that's the basis for his argument. Now, the first thing that I pointed out in my rebuttal is the fact that he used a false dichotomy, because he is basically saying it is either science or God. And more specifically, it's either science or his God, the God hypothesis, the Christian God. When even if it were true that science was incorrect, even though science is incorrect all the time, it's constantly correcting itself, but it is right about a lot of things. Like, well, scientists are right, science isn't right. Science is just the study of and the process we use to determine these facts. But it's a false dichotomy because it doesn't, even if science was wrong and didn't make sense, it doesn't mean God hypothesis. As an atheist, if I accept evolution as a scientific fact because it is a scientific fact. If we found a fossil at a place and it completely blew evolution out of the water to where scientists don't even accept evolution anymore, I wouldn't believe in God. That's not proof for God, because all the gods have just as much credible evidence, which is zero. And so I would just look for whatever science proposes as next, as where life came from. If scientific evidence showed up that it was a god, then therefore, yes, I would believe in that god, whatever god scientists discovered evidence for, but there never is evidence. And so it's a false dichotomy in that case, because he bases his whole argument against science off of science is wrong, therefore God, which is wrong because, well, for one, science isn't wrong, it's just confusing. I would say the average mind can't really comprehend most sciences very well. Physics is very confusing to a lot of people. I took one semester of physics, and it was pretty tough, but it was interesting, and it was easy for me, but for most people, that was a really hard class. And so just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's wrong, or doesn't mean that we shouldn't trust science, shouldn't trust scientists, shouldn't trust these quote-unquote experts. This is my problem with a lot of creationist arguments, is you basically state that science is wrong, and you've already lost as soon as you state that. If you make any statement about science is wrong, this theory is wrong, that theory is wrong, that is a scientific fact, you're going to automatically lose the argument. Whether you honestly believe that or not, it doesn't change the actual fact of the matter. The fact of the matter is evolution is a fact. That's a fact. That's a scientific fact. It's 100% a fact. Whether you get some biased website telling you, oh, evolution's a lie pushed on you by unicorns or some shit like that, that doesn't make it true. Evolution is a fact, and if you deny it, then I can't take your argument seriously, especially if that's your only argument against science or against evolution, is that, oh, well, it's a lie. Well, no, it's not. It's a scientific fact. You can't get around that. Once creationists start accepting scientific fact in their lives, then they can hopefully start producing arguments for their side that actually make sense. That was one of the main things in the Ken Ham and Bill Nye debate, was the fact that Ken Ham just refused to accept scientific fact as is. The fact that we know the Earth is 13.7 billion years old and not 6,000 years old. Therefore, people can't take him seriously. So many atheists, before the debate, when they knew about the debate, were ecstatic, hoping that this guy who was supposed to be representing creationism would be able to actually give us some insight on why these people believe this and why we should accept this as a fact, teach it as a fact in schools. We were hoping that we could get some insight on that, get some good arguments to think about, to discuss, to debate, but it wasn't like that. Bill Nye didn't even need to show up to that debate to win. Ken Ham defeated himself by denying scientific fact and saying that he can deny scientific fact, propose something that has no scientific evidence or backing whatsoever, and that is the new science, and that's what we should teach as science. That's where the problem lies. All right? I don't care if you believe in a God. I don't care if you believe in creationism. I don't care if you believe that unicorns rule the world and there's a big unicorn named Cuddles in the sky who rules over us as this very all-powerful deity. I don't care about those things. I don't care what you believe at all. I just don't want you to make fun of my beliefs or my lack of beliefs and blatantly say I'm wrong for accepting what is a scientific fact. I would be happy to discuss with a creationist, not debate, but discuss with a creationist why they think creation is the correct model, as long as they're willing to accept science as a fact. As the things we know as a fact is the best way to say it. If something is being tested through science, like through a scientific hypothesis, proposed as a hypothesis, and it's in the testing stage, obviously it's not a fact yet because we don't know. We haven't done the correct testing. But in terms of evolution, evolution was proposed as a hypothesis, and it was taken through the scientific process, through testing, and we came to a theory about science or about evolution, and that therefore it is a scientific fact. A scientific theory is different than what you use as a theory in everyday conversation, language. What you say as a theory is what scientists say as a hypothesis. What you say as a fact is what scientists say as a theory, is the best comparison to make there. I hope that more and more people will understand that the only reason why creationists are able to believe what they believe is because they deny science. They deny basic scientific fact that goes against what their entire belief system is about. Because evolution, like I said, is a fact. It is indisputable fact. It's a scientific fact. And that it breaks down the creation argument by a ton. I wouldn't say it completely destroys it, in the sense that some people view the creation argument differently, in that some people take the less literal interpretation where they say, oh, well, God made everything. God made the earth. God made humans. It was just over an extended period of time. Or God created evolution. I don't think that technically is involved in the creation argument, because that would still have to deal with evolution. I think the creation argument mainly is God created humans, which isn't the case. Even if a God does exist, God didn't create humans. We have evolution to prove that humans evolved. Therefore, it would be illogical that a God would create just randomness and then and then make it so that one day humans evolve and he's going to dictate over us. But that's going into a religion argument, which I don't really want to go into, because I don't consider an argument against creationism a religious debate, in the sense that it's more talking about scientific fact and what really happened as to what is proposed to happen, believed by mainly crazy people. And it doesn't, if creation is proved wrong, which it has been numerous times through the Big Bang and evolution, as well as other scientific theories, then it still doesn't disprove God. There is no true scientific proof against the existence of a God, which I'll fully admit. And I will fully admit that I'm open to believing in a God, in the creation, or the God that created everybody through the Christian beliefs, or through the Muslim beliefs, or Jewish beliefs, or fucking like Greek mythology beliefs. If it turns out that Zeus is really a god or not, it doesn't really matter. I'm open to believing that. I'm just waiting for the burden of proof to be met from the religious side of things, the theist side, because that's where the burden of proof lies. Now, I know the burden of proof lies on atheists, any atheist or anti-theist who claims that God does not exist or no gods exist, which is a claim, a positive claim, that would require a burden of proof. I would definitely say, whenever someone says, oh, well, no gods exist, if there was a debate going on, I would expect them to present some sort of evidence, not just be like, oh, well, you can't prove he does exist, therefore he doesn't exist, because it's just flipping what a lot of atheists use as their arguments, stating that, just because we can't prove he doesn't exist doesn't mean he does exist. And so that's just changing the burden of proof. I'm anxiously waiting. Please, can a Christian satisfy your burden of proof? I don't think it's going to happen, because I personally believe that there is no scientific evidence for a God, and even if there was, I don't think it would be scientific evidence. I think it would be supernatural evidence, and I don't believe in the supernatural, or at least not in the sense that religious people do. Well, that's about it for this podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts on the creation argument and denying science as a fact.